Tank Girl and Jet Girl
save Sam.
Oh, yeah. She's here, too.
The Rippers take down Water and Power.
The big bad evil guy tells the guy who he has deemed responsible for failure to take his shoes off and walk across the glass towards him.
Oh, this guy's a sadist.
He's insane. If you follow these directions, you should look like this.
She's sleeping with Booga.
When did the tank become Herbie?
Whoa, crazy random. Welcome to the Yestalgia podcast. I'm Basil.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Amanda.
And today we are talking about Tank Girl. Quick synopsis before we start. In the year 2033, a comet has disrupted the rain cycle of Earth, leaving it a barren desert for the past decade. The corporation, aptly named Water and Power, have taken control of the water supply. Tank Girl and Jet Girl rise up against Water and Power with the help of the mysterious rebel group known only as the Rippers. Let's talk about it.
Okay, what is everybody's exposure to this movie? I say exposure like it's some sort of disease.
It is.
I've never seen this movie. In fact, before it was brought up in conversation, I had never heard of it, this movie. So yeah, I'm the newbie again.
That's okay.
Amanda, would you like to go?
Yeah, I have heard of this movie and came out in 1995. At that age, I was really into grunge and alternative music and stuff like that. I really loved Aeon Flux, and I wanted to see this movie so bad, but I felt like I was the only person on planet Earth that registered its existence. So I did not get to see it until now.
Cool. I picked this because it was one of my favorite movies as a teen. I think I was looking at when we moved, I took pictures of all my art because I had kept all my art from when I was like 12 until my current aged self time.
Good for you.
Till the age that I currently am, which is in my 30s. So I was like, oh, I don't want to move all these sketchbooks. These boxes are humongous. They are very, very heavy. So I just took pictures of the things that I kind of liked or remembered or whatever. And some of the very early stuff was Tank Girl. So I can't have been too old when I saw it. I want to say probably around 13, 14. It was after it had come out, you know, by at least a few years. But yeah, I saw it at some point then. And yeah, it was one of my favorite movies when I was a teen. And yeah, you can kind of see the influence of it if you were to look at my artwork over the years and in my teen years. It's very clear that I was influenced by like the fashion and stuff. So yeah, I also own some of the comics, not all of them.
Okay, you can't not share this artwork. We're always wondering, what should we put on our social media? Of course, that's asking you to...
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, that's asking a lot of you. You don't have to put it on social media, but I would love to see it.
I mean, that's fine. I can share it. Knowing that I was 14, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a 14-year-old drew this that is not quite so talented yet. And particularly when I was that young, we did not have YouTube tutorials, so it really was practice, and go to classes sometimes. But yeah, I have no problem sharing that. But in terms of the actual movie, does anyone have anything they want to start with?
So this was a wild one. I'm having the same trouble talking about this movie as I did, and no one hurt me. I don't mean it the way it's going to sound. The same way I had trouble talking about Baseballs, because it didn't grab me the way that I expected it to. And also, it was so visually and auditorily kind of nutty. It was a little bit all over the place for me. So the movie ended up kind of becoming alphabet soup. And toward the end, I actually lost some investment. Was it bad and did I hate it? No, not at all. But this movie goes really weird places. First of all, we open with the voice of Tank Girl. Her name is Rebecca, which I kind of appreciated that. I was like, oh, her name is so mundane. For such an over-the-top girl. She's got an over-the-top look. She's got an over-the-top personality. She is not afraid of shit. This must be what it feels like to play at the D&D table with a Kinder. She is not afraid of anything. She's taking beatings in stride. She's got a snarky little quip for everything. I like it. I'm going to pass it off onto Basil. Educate me. Because I feel like you own the comics, or some of them.
Yes.
I feel like there's way, way more to this than I was able to perceive.
There's some things about the comics and about the production that happened here. Because I will agree that I think the movie's kind of messy. And when you started to say you were going to compare it, I thought you were going to compare it to Repo. Because I think it's not unlike that in a certain way. I do enjoy it a lot more, but it is a little messy like that. They're putting a lot in and things don't seem to connect. And there are two things that can contribute to that. The comics that I have now, I only have the first two collected graphic novels and then one called Tank Girl Apocalypse. And first of all, it is Australian, which is why Naomi Watts is there, I suppose. Oh no, she's British though. Never mind. But it is originally Australian. And for this, I went back and read the comics, and the first sort of strips that they had done of Tank Girl were just like one-off things.
Like comic strips?
Yes. So it was strips instead of a collection or for a book, I believe. And it was in with other comics. There was a particular indie publisher who was Australian, obviously. And they did go under, actually. They were hoping the movie would help kind of save them, and it didn't. But the thing about the comics, because I did try and go back and read them, they're really all over the fucking place. And I think it's a mix of two things. One is there's clearly Australian slang and possibly jokes that are not hitting with me because I don't understand them. And then on top of that, I think part of the style of them is meant to be like, whoa, crazy random, right?
Yeah, I got that same vibe.
So reading them is a little bit difficult because it's kind of like, it's not a story arc. It is just like random shit happening. Again, I only have some of them, so I don't know if there are more that have more of a storyline, but it is kind of random. So that's the first thing I think going against the script and the like how the movie ends up.
Foundation material itself, sorry to cut in, but it sounds to me like the foundational medium is exactly the same as the movie.
Scattered.
Scattered is like the perfect word, Drew.
Yeah, right? Brilliant. Thank you, Drew.
Because, yeah, that is how they're starting out. So they have to kind of make something with a more coherent narrative for a film. Technically, they don't, but if they're trying to make a commercially successful film, which is what was going on, you need a cohesive narrative. But speaking of that, it sounds like from the things that I could read that producers kind of meddled a lot in a way that really hurt the film. So there are certain scenes that they cut and things like that. And this was like after the movie was finished and the director was like, this is my cut. And they were like, haha, we're going to fuck around with it. And I know that the two guys who do Tank Girl, I should have written their names down.
The writer was Alan Martin and the artist was Jamie Hewlett.
Thank you. The two of them sort of said it was a mess. They said there were scenes that they forgot to film. I don't know if that's 100% true because the director said that they were taking things out and specifically mentioned a scene that was at the end that got taken out. And so if you notice, there was random animated parts. They had to do that to kind of fill in things because I think it was cut so much and in a way that didn't make sense that they needed things that linked. So what I'm basically saying is that the producers meddling, I think, really made this film suffer, taking things out and then having to kind of stitch them together and why things are paced a little oddly and things like that.
There's always going to be problems when you have someone messing with the creator's art.
Their vision.
Because that is the thing. One of my notes was like, parts of this movie are really cheesy and it's kind of messy. Particularly, pacing is such a big thing for me. They spend so much time basically torturing Rebecca that you don't get as long of a time with the Rippers, which I think is the far more interesting story, if I'm being honest.
Okay, if I remember correctly, because I do remember trailers and I could not be fucked to actually watch one, but if my memory serves me, which it usually doesn't, I remember trailers of that on TV at the time that it was released, and they kind of kept those dudes under wraps mostly. Could be totally wrong. I could be completely hallucinating here, but I don't think they revealed them a whole lot. I think they might have showed them in their battle suits or whatever, or maybe they showed a split-second glimpse of one.
Yeah.
But it was almost like they were keeping that huge surprise, which is also a part of the movie that kind of sucked.
Yeah. Like I said, I think them meeting with the Rippers, that's what really gets things sort of going in an actual direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gives Tank Girl and Jet Girl a purpose.
Yeah, or focus. Because they are anti-water and power, but it's almost like there's two movies. One movie in which the focus is save Sam. And then the second one is what the Ripper's goal is, which is to take down water and power.
Save Sam plotline was definitely the B plotline. That movie went for so many minutes without really...
I was like, oh yeah, she's here too.
Right. She was an afterthought to me.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, I think the first part is a little too much faffing around.
Okay, hang on. Faffing around, again, great, perfect way to describe this. Sometimes I was like, what the fuck is she doing? First of all, I am going to jump back in. The actress.
Very petty.
Other than her hair, which her hair only upsets me because I feel like that's what my hair looked like after my thyroid died and like big chunks of my hair start falling out. So I had like some of my hair was past my shoulders and then some of my hair was completely to the scalp. So I was like, oh, I hate that. Why would anyone purposefully do that? But also she had this vocal dissonance and it took me a while to get used to. And sometimes I liked her vocal performance because I feel like what the actress was doing was a vocal performance.
It is not. Just so you know.
You're shitting me.
I couldn't stop thinking about Harley Quinn.
Yeah, and I think I would argue that Harley Quinn probably takes elements from Tank Girl. I think she was created before.
The modern adaptations of Harley Quinn are kind of same archetype as Tank Girl.
Oh, Harley Quinn has one consistent accent. It's an iconic accent that anybody can pick out.
The Mr. J.
Right.
Margot Robbie actually her production company bought the rights to remake Tank Girl. However, it was supposed to start production in 2019. So I don't know if it's happening.
Yeah, what a great year to start anything, right?
The woman who played Harley Quinn originally is a voice actor. The woman who played Tank Girl is just an actress. She's not professionally trained specifically in voices, so it can lapse.
Like is she, do you know Drew or Basil, is she Australian?
No. None of the actors, I believe, are Australian. Because this was a US-based production. They shot all in the United States, and the actors were just all over. Most of them LA, of course.
I have a like and a dislike with her vocal performance. When we opened up the very beginning scene of the movie where she's riding on her yak and we hear this voice and then she kind of announces herself, yeah, like, that's me. I'm the main character. I was like, yeah, but girl, that's your voice? You kind of sound a little bit like a 10-year-old from the Bronx, but you also sound a little bit like Benedict Cumberbatch trying to have an American accent. It was really weird. It was all over the place. So I was like, is she British/Australian and trying to emulate some type of American accent? And then when you see her, she also does this thing where she squeezes her larynx a little bit, which... fine, no big deal. But when you hear a voice like that, you kind of expect a younger person. I expected a younger person. Not that I'm saying that Tank Girl was old, but that voice to me sounded like a teenager.
So it is her voice.
You're kidding me.
Have you ever seen A League of Their Own?
No, I've not.
Okay, because she's in that, and her voice is the same.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe part of her affectation or whatever is, I don't know a ton about Lori Petty, but I do know a little bit. And I don't know. So I once knew this guy and he lived in Boston and he had this weird accent because he grew up in California and then went to college. And then I think by the time I met him, he was probably in his late 20s, early 30s. So he had been here a while. Well, not here. I don't live in Boston, but he had been in the Boston area for a while. And he had this weird affectation because he kind of had a Californian accent and kind of had a Boston accent. So I don't know if that's what's happening with her. Cause like, I don't know, where she has lived, because if she's lived all over the country, and because the United States is very large and we tend to have lots of different dialects, and she's picking it up as she's growing up or something, then that might explain some of it. But she does talk like that, because she talks like that in League of Their Own, and she is not playing as cartoonish of a character in League of Their Own.
So on the other side of that dissonance, after a while, it started to sync up, like my brain accepted it. I will say I did start to really like it. I still heard like these weird fluctuating accents. I get hung up on vocal performances. I can pick out if a show changes the voice actors, I'm distracted. I can't watch this anymore. Like, I'm done. Not even because it's bad, but just because it's so distracting to me. So I got hung up on that. But then the more I watched it, the more I was like, yeah, cool. I like this. I like this character. I like the way the actress is portraying her. I liked her little shitty snide comebacks to every bad thing that happened to her. I felt myself kind of going, damn, I wish I could be like that. Like, just get punched in the face. You should be like, oh yeah, I liked that. Harder, daddy. That kind of thing. I appreciated it.
It's interesting because in a way it's like resilience, but it does seem like a coping mechanism that maybe isn't healthy though anyways.
She does it to every single thing, even when she's truly afraid. Like when the fucked up, weird, disturbing bad guy, who is actually one of the most bonkers bad guys I've seen in a while, when he puts her in that water tube, first of all, I held my breath, y'all. And also I was like, yeah, she's really freaking out. But at the beginning of that scene, she's smart mouthing. At the end of that scene, when they pull her out, even after she has a panic feint, the first thing she does, a smart ass remark.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of her whole shtick, right? Like that she's quick and a smart ass and kind of constantly a little bit contrary. That is the part of her character I do like. Unfortunately, some of the jokes become a little inappropriate because she does make one joke about pedophilia. But generally speaking, yeah, it is funny and quippy and enjoyable. It's enjoyable to see a lead character who is pretty much unbreakable. That was sort of the whole point, right? Of the torturous scenes, is to say, oh, she cannot be broken. Unfortunately, it went on for a long time. It was a little too much.
Too long, but in a way, it was reassuring. It was like a safety net for the audience. You were like, okay, no matter what happens, this character is going to come out with a smile. Mm-hmm. And she literally did.
Yeah. I'll say to the haircut, it pretty much looks like that in the comics.
I figured. I just was like, never mind. I've had medical conditions where my hair has completely fallen out in some patches. And I was just like, I'm going to shave my entire fucking head.
You should have, because that would be badass.
My mom did back in the day.
That's cool.
Yeah, she gave herself a little buzz cut. If I could shift back to the villain, Keasley, is that his name? Did I get it right?
Keasley.
Okay, so
Malcolm McDowell.
What else is he in?
Like
I know his name and I know his face and I know his voice, but I cannot think of anything else he's in.
I'll say one of his big roles is Clockwork Orange.
Yes, that's a big one.
Never seen it.
I've never seen it either, but I know.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's probably people know him from the most. He was much younger, though, at that point.
I was going to say, so did I miss something? Because here's how the opening villain sequence happened for me. Michael McDowell is...
Malcolm.
God damn it. The big bad evil guy. He's kind of having the whole dissatisfied rich white man scene, which is not uncommon. I've seen it a million times. He's telling his cronies, we did a good job, but it's not good enough. And then he does something horrible. Well, the horrible thing that he does is he smashes all these glass panels into the floor. And then he tells the guy who he has deemed responsible for failure to take his shoes off and walk across the glass towards him, which the guy just does, y'all. He just does. It's almost like he wants it. And he kills him by sticking this weird water draining apparatus into him, which makes a lot of sense for the movie, that is a thing that exists.
Yeah, because the water is so scarce.
But it's also extremely gross, though, because it's got like a double chamber, right? And the bottom chamber has the blood coming up into it, and then the upper chamber has like the filtered out water.
It's a separator.
Right. That guy dies from whatever.
Getting stabbed.
And then we see the big baddie. All of a sudden, the camera pans down to his feet, and it turns out, not only number one, he's also walking over the glass as well. Number two, he hasn't had shoes on this entire time? Or did I miss something?
I feel like he might reach down, but maybe I'm wrong.
It seemed like a surprise to me.
I find that scene is kind of funny because you could be like, oh, this guy's a sadist, right? From that first part, you're like, oh, this guy's a sadist. But then he walks over the glass himself. So you're like, so is he just crazy or is he just somehow both a sadist and a masochist at the same time?
He's insane.
Which is it?
He's ruthless, and he's either tough or just masochist.
He is a masochist, y'all, because, wait, masochist is the one that likes to hurt.
Oh, yeah, the
No pain medicine. Yeah,
Yes.
That's exactly what I was about to talk about. He slaps
Yeah.
the syringe out of her hand and is like, no pain medicine. And I'm like, bitch, you just wasted some perfectly good juice.
I wonder if between those two things, they're trying to imply that he thinks pain is almost character building or something. You know what I mean?
Maybe?
Probably.
Like that sort of toxic masculinity thing that's about like the amount of pain you can withstand is a testament to your power and masculinity.
That's why he's the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he gets his arm exploded off or cut off. He got attacked by the Rippers.
They see the piece with the watch. So it's just a hunk of his arm.
Right. And then the doctor says he also got his face ripped off, but he looked perfectly fine. Anyways, they had this deranged doctor come in. He was like totally unhinged doctor and basically fix him up. And that was his sort of like villain transformation. Like you thought he was bad enough to begin with. Now he's got cybernetic parts. And yeah, I didn't like him. I did not like him. He drank that man's blood water. And it made me barf.
Waste not, want not.
Amanda, I think you're not supposed to like him.
He's a villain.
I know, but that part was just like, bleh. Like I vomited down the front of my shirt, literally everywhere.
He gives me, and his movie was made around the same time, he gives me Bison vibes from Street Fighter.
Yes! You are so right.
I'll say when he was making his speech, I was like, man, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and Malcolm McDowell kind of look alike.
Who's Jonathan Rhys Hootie?
He's an actor. He was in several movies. I can't remember the names of any of them. But the biggest role that I know of him playing was King George in The Tudors. He's cute, you know what I mean? But yeah, they kind of look alike. I mean, not all the time, but it's like they kind of have that weird upper lip thing going on. And then their eyes are like kind of in the right spot. I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy.
George Boleyn?
George Boleyn. I'm pretty sure he's King George. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm going to bed. I thought I found the guy that you were talking about. I did not.
I will say I fucking loved the soundtrack. It was great.
Yeah, it was quintessentially the 90s.
Yep.
Like there was so much about this movie that was the embodiment of the 90s, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
There were 2 Bjork songs.
Yeah, there's a Portishead song, and Billy was like, is this Portishead? And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And he was so excited. Very cute.
That was me when the 2 Bjork songs came on. And the second one, it wasn't Human Behavior. I can't remember the name of the second song, but it was during my favorite scene in this whole movie was when they pretended to be fashion photographers and they were like taking pictures of these burly, sweaty men and they were making them feel like so beautiful. I loved that scene, you guys, where they were just like, work it. Yeah. You're our new January. Yeah. And he's like, can I be December?
How many different names did she call Jet Girl?
Like 4 or something. Yeah, I can't remember any of them now. But
And then Jet Girl is over there like
Getting into it.
having the big, she's got her O face on. She's like, yeah, show me those tits. I was dying. I loved that scene.
I mean, it was so funny because she had to drag Jet away because she was like really into the dudes taking their shirts off.
She was. I was like, Have yourself a good time, girl. And also the dudes were immediately. I loved it. There was like absolutely no resistance. They were just like, oh shit, you think I'm sexy and you want to put me on a sexy boy calendar? Fuck yeah. And these are like regular looking men.
Average guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the guy with the red hair and the beard, the kind of like bigger dude with the red hair and the beard, he's just like, that seems weird, but okay.
Yeah. And the guys just get into, they're just like, yep, let's go.
That was such a great scene to exist. I really like that dynamic of the lady walking into the room. It actually kind of surprises me, Basil, that you said a couple of dudes wrote this. It doesn't super surprise me, but I almost expected this to be written by a woman because it's got these scenes like this where a chick rolls up and she's like, hey, you guys want to be objectified? I'm going to be real chill about it. And the dudes are like, okay, let's go.
However, it also has a scene where a dog man humps a girl on the dance floor.
Yeah, without her consent. Yes.
Yeah.
That stuff was real icky.
He was extremely.
Because, yeah, watching it now, I'm like, this is icky, and I wish this part wasn't here.
Yeah. There's also a scene with, for anybody curious of whether or not they want to watch it, there is also sort of like a weird scene. Nothing bad happens, but there's a guy that's at, I think, a futuristic Bordeaux. Bordello? Thank you. What did I say?
Or brothel.
Yeah. So we get to see Sam for one of the rare moments in the entire movie, and it just so happens to be she's very, very passively.
She was captured and taken to this place.
Yeah, she's participating in some guy's gross fantasy.
Which she does not want to participate.
Oh, absolutely. No, but I'm just saying it.
But yes, the madam of the place kind of forces her into doing it. Nothing does end up happening, luckily. And what I love about that is that she fights back. You know what I mean? Like she uses her danger ball from the beginning.
Hellraiser thing.
Yeah. Oh, also that's Iggy Pop, by the way, the creepy perv.
Yeah.
I knew he looked familiar.
I wasn't 100% sure when I first saw him, and then I looked it up, and it for sure is. Partly because I'm not used to him having such dark hair.
Yeah, he usually has like a pulled back ponytail that's blonde.
I've never seen him with a ponytail. But I mean, I think I mostly have seen him when he was younger. Which even then, he didn't look all that young.
I wonder how he felt about that being his character.
I mean, yeah.
At the time that this movie came out, he probably didn't bat an eye.
Yeah. I think that because it is such a very specific role, I imagine he knew exactly what he was getting into and just was like, yeah, a cameo would be cool. Whatever it is. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. All publicity is good publicity.
Yeah. I did really love their commune at the beginning. It was like this anarcho-punk commune, which I think is really cool. Because I'll say in the comics, Tank Girl is very solo. Well, sort of. They have recurring characters. They have Booga, and Stevie is another character who actually originally the guy who plays DT, one of the Rippers, wanted to portray Stevie, but they ended up cutting him. And so he became DT instead. And he didn't have a saxophone originally. Like the character, they didn't write him to have like a saxophone. It's just the actor was like bringing his saxophone to set.
This would be cool.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, yeah, let's make him like a beat guy.
Hey, you guys know what I'm good at?
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because this is an American production and the comic book is Australian and there's some stuff. And because I am not from Australia and because I am not an Indigenous Australian, I don't know 100%.
You don't know what you're looking at.
So I will say there is a lot of imagery in the comic, Indigenous art and tattooing and stuff, I believe. I don't, like I said, I'm not very familiar with it.
They use the didgeridoo as like the sound effect for any time, well, not any time, but any time that the Rippers were on scene and fighting, you could hear that like that was used almost as like their BGM. Like, here comes a Ripper.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying in the OG comic, I don't know how appropriative that is. And they mostly do not have as much of it in the thing, which I wonder if that's part of why they cut Stevie, because they were trying to not tread on something they didn't feel comfortable treading.
In 1995, I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
Not to be cynical, but...
But they do keep Tank Girl's tattoo and stuff. So, and again, I may be just actually myself being just like ignorant here too. So I'm going to actually shut the fuck up about it. But it does appear to be, they use indigenous imagery within the comic. And I do think particularly you remember the montage where they're changing the tank up to look different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a part where she's definitely wearing some stuff that seems appropriative there as well. So I don't know. It's just one of the outfits. That's the thing about this movie. She wears so many different outfits just cuz.
And her hair is different. Like from scene to scene. I was like, girl, where did you get brunette tracks all of a sudden? Who did that? When did you have time to do that?
I know that she shaves her head when she's at Liquid Silver because basically she gets into the wardrobe area, the dressing area for the girls for Liquid Silver. And there is a hologram or whatever there telling her how to put things up. And a razor comes out and it says, shave any inappropriate hair. And instead of shaving anything on her body, she shaves the back of her head, which I don't know if you noticed, but she has Band-Aids on the back of her head after that because she did such a bad job.
No.
I think she also has a bloody ear because they also say if your ears are not pierced and the piercing gun pops out, it says, make sure to pierce them, blah, blah, blah. And so she clearly did. And it's just like bleeding down her neck.
I love how she was just like, okay. Because to me, watching that scene, I was just sort of like, humiliating. But this character took it in stride and was just sort of like, okay, fine.
If you follow these directions, you should look like this.
And then they show
Not at all.
No.
She followed them so wrong, y'all. It was beautiful. She's throwing shit all around the room, but she tried. She gets a participation trophy.
She actually tried. I think she was just like, fuck that. I'm gonna do what I want.
Right.
With the clothes that I find.
Big part of her character from what I saw.
Yeah.
Right. And she was like, okay, ears pierced. I'm open to it.
And put every earring on. Was the other thing.
I really do like that character. She's very static, which the ADHD brain loves. At least mine does.
That is mostly true, but not 100% true because she doesn't like water and power, but she doesn't do anything against them until she meets the Rippers, right? And because that's the inciting incident, I think, it's weird because it seems like there's a few different inciting incidents that get her into the part of like, I actually want to bring down water and power if I can.
So, okay, have you guys seen the 1979 Alien movie?
I mean, Alien or a different Alien?
Alien.
Yes, I have.
Okay, so big thing that everyone knows about this movie is that the script was actually written, and I'm sorry, I always tell myself, don't talk about other movies during the movie that you're supposed to be talking about. But I could not help myself. That script was written with Ripley as a male. And I think they literally didn't change a goddamn thing, but her pronouns. And they were just like, put Sigourney Weaver in there. Now Ripley is a she. If you wanted to, you could almost interpret this character the same way.
I believe in 95, we were around the kind of riot girl second wave feminism going on. So this does feel an of the time feminist take.
Not many people did it right. They didn't completely commit. And the one scene that stuck with me was where it was towards the end where Tank Girl is fighting the big bad evil guy who now has like a see-through face.
Hologram face.
Yeah. And he says something like, if you don't be a slave in my establishment, I'm going to kill Sam. And she says something like, I would rather Sam be dead. That to me is so male hero. That would be a perfect opportunity for people to be like, oh, and this is when the heroine was moved and the kindness in her heart and she was a caretaker all along. But no, she was like, I'd rather her be dead. She was bluffing, I think. Was she bluffing?
I think in a way, yeah. If the two options were dead or essentially a slave to water and power, I think that is a true statement for her. She'd rather dead because a slave to water and power is just so horrible and so horrific.
Worse off than dead.
Yeah.
What's great about this movie is that hardly any movies let female characters actually even bluff that. They're like, oh no, This is the part where she turns, where she stops and she reevaluates what she's doing and she makes a sacrifice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tank Girl was like, fuck her. We ball.
Yeah, she's still exactly who she is.
Yeah, they let her be a human being.
Well, they let her be true to her character, you know?
Exactly. And not a vessel of protection for the vulnerable that she cares about.
Mm-hmm. And it's not that she doesn't care. It's very clear she cares about people in this film. But they kind of show that she will always be resilient. And she is a little bit hard because of that. And that's
priorities.
And I kind of feel like I have to disagree with the statement you made that seems like there's something a male character would do. Because from the movies I've seen, usually it's a male character, he's on a rampage and stuff. And when someone says something like that, that's what stops him. Because he's like, he has to protect all the people around him. So that's what like calms him down and puts him out of his rage. And that's how when he gets tricked.
And the tables get turned for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is the sort of masculine thing to be a protector, right? I feel you on that.
I have a very specific set of skills.
The whole movie's about him saving his daughter.
By kicking a whole lot of ass.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you know how I mentioned earlier the sort of animation in between scenes that kind of connect?
Yeah.
Some of them are still images, and I'm like, I don't know if they're from the comic or if they made them and then put them on the cover of the graphic novel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Really cheap. And I don't like it. I love when it's animated. Yeah. When it's animated, I'm like, this shit don't make no sense, but I would watch an hour and 44 minutes of this.
But either way, I feel it's done the right way. Because usually when they show one of those, then you come out on the other side of what Tank Girl and Jet Girl are doing. Unlike another movie where they show you the panel and then still do the same thing in the scene following.
Yeah.
You're right, Drew.
Yeah, they are transitional parts. They're useful. Yeah.
Drew's so right. He's right and he should say it.
No, he is absolutely right.
He's like, well, that didn't mean a fucking thing.
This is so dumb. So I do not smoke anymore, but I did smoke when I was younger. Unfortunately, I think the comics in this movie might have influenced me. Oh, no!
It's cool as fuck, right?
Yeah, because I started smoking when I was 14 and I quit when I was like...
Girl!
17 or something.
You said you started smoking at 14. Okay, never mind. I'm butting out.
I did, but it was only for a few years.
Butting out.
Fuck you.
It was only for a few years and I did stop. My reason for stopping was dumb, but whatever, I did. But I still get excited when I see Fantasia cigarettes. So when I saw Rebecca with them, I was like, Fantasia! Oh my God! Which, for anyone who doesn't know, Fantasias are these very expensive cigarettes. And in my 3 or 4 years of smoking, only bought them twice. And I think one of them I shared a pack with somebody because they were so pricey. And they are colored and their filter has gold. They do have flavored ones, but they're not all flavored. Mostly it's the color that you're getting. They'll have pink and blue and purple and red and whatever. And they're bright, bright colored papers. And then the filter paper is gold.
Real colorful.
Yeah. And literally you're just paying to look kind of cool.
Great for kids.
Sarcasm test complete.
Okay, for anyone who doesn't know what Basil's talking about, back in this day, a pack of Fantasia cigarettes, and I say pack, but they came in this cute little compartment, right? They came in a very special...
Because, didn't the box open from the front rather than the top?
Right. It was like opening a wallet.
Yeah, and it had a little hinge. Mm-hmm.
Those shits were probably $10 a pack back in the goddamn day.
I'm not sure because I think the company went under or they got bought by a different cigarette company. I'm not 100% on that.
Fantasias anymore. Nobody cares about Nat Sherman. Nobody cares about any of that anymore. It's all about the jewel.
American Spirits? No.
Oh, everyone cares about American Spirit.
Yeah, because that's what I smoked for a little while. Mostly I went Marlboro Reds. Anyway.
That's what I smoke is American Spirit.
One thing I'll say on this is I have never smoked before in my life. Tobacco, at least.
Not even once?
Ever.
To try it? Oh.
Nope.
Basil, did you try it?
Did you try it? You want to try it? No.
You want to hit? It is. It's like crack.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but my reason for quitting was because the boys I liked didn't like it.
Fuck them. Fuck them. We smoke.
So I said, you know what I like more than smoking? Making out.
Yuck. Like blazing dick.
But anyhow, yeah, they were very pricey. I think at the time that they were probably about like $10. I believe cigarettes were probably about $5, maybe a little bit under that at the time.
Not even.
So when I quit, they were $5. I know that.
She's super hot when she smokes a cigarette. She pulls the cigarette/cigar out of dead people's mouths and smokes it. And it's great and it looks satisfying. And there's an animation sequence in which she does it. And those animation sequences, I'm just going to say, they're really good. I like them. They make no sense. 0 sense. But they're good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of sense in some of them, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. You're like, why? What's going on?
They're wacky.
Yeah.
The end of the movie, y'all.
Yeah.
What the fuck? First of all, the Kangaroo Man looks so much better animated than he did IRL.
I did want to touch on that a little bit. So that is how they are drawn in the comic, with the big, long, kind of snouty part.
Yeah, in a way that makes sense.
Yes. However, when they were going to do the movie, I don't know if that technology even exists at this point, where the director said she wanted them to be able to emote. And I think I agree that they would not have been able to emote very much with a kind of snout.
They still didn't, in my honest opinion.
But more. I mean, Ice-T was always angry and we got that eyebrow crease kind of thing.
Yeah, but would the snoot have changed that? And yeah, I get it. They're working in a time period where we don't have all this CGI. I appreciate that they layered these actors up with makeup, which is probably a grueling process, but still 90% of their acting, I feel, was done through their eyeballs.
Well, I'll say I don't think even special effects makeup was quite as advanced as it is these days. So yeah, they could probably, if they did decide to do practical effects now that were the same kind of thing, they probably still would not go snoot, right? But I do think they would probably have moved better, like have more movement to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I struggled with the Rippers because they just looked so bad to me. They looked awful.
They definitely look kind of weird.
Barf from Spaceballs looked better to me. I bought it. I was like, okay, he's supposed to be a dog.
I will say they did have some animatronic ear thing.
I didn't like that either.
So they could emote with their ears. I think for the time period, trying to make an animal hybrid person, they didn't do bad. Because I can't think of anything at that time that's even close.
Listen, I'm going to go back to Barf. And wow, why is that his name?
Because Spaceballs is bad.
No, I will take 1 or 2 seats. Spaceballs was a movie where you're supposed to just be like, whatever, who gives a shit, fuck it.
That's what I'm saying.
But John Candy's animatronics were very, very cute. This was, they looked horrible, in my opinion. I'm just going to say it.
What do you think, Drew?
I think that they look kind of weird, to say the least. It was...
Right?
For 95, I think it was on the bad side.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think is like that from 95? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I have seen some stuff from around that time that was better. Maybe I'm just making stuff up. I don't know.
I mean, the only other thing I can think of is The Island of Dr. Moreau. And so that one I don't think is very good. So I do think this is better. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen Island of Dr. Moreau?
I have not, but I've heard about it.
I've seen it once.
It's kind of a mixed bag, I'll say, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Some of them, especially if they're more simian looking, definitely are very successful, which isn't exactly fair because humans are pretty closely related to apes, but...
Oh God, there are so many things about this movie that I forgot.
What, Island of Dr. Moreau or
Yeah.
Tank Girl?
No, I don't have anything to remember about Tank Girl because I've never seen it until recently. But Island of Dr. Moreau has some freaky, freaky stuff.
We'll talk about Island of Dr. Moreau in some other context.
Also, though, about the Rippers, I found it really strange when they were voting and they decided to vote by raising their tails. They have hands, they have voices, clearly.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because kangaroos, the tail is more important than their little scrumpy forearms. Kangaroos' forearms are like nothing. They cannot use those.
Don't they like lean on their tails sometimes?
Yes, they do.
Like lean back, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I was actually just watching a nature show with Amari where a guy was looking for leafy sea dragons in Australia and he couldn't find any. So he's like, all right, what else can I fuck with? And he happened upon some kangaroos and he's like, hey, check this shit out. And they do. They use their tail as leverage.
Yep, that's kind of the definition of a kangaroo kick. They lean on their tails and kick out.
Kick with their feet, yeah.
Horrible, horrible animals. Just a genetic disaster.
I've heard they taste pretty good, though.
Oh,
They taste good.
I will tell you, I worked in a pet store, which you guys know, for a period of time. So we offered stuff from an Australian company that had kangaroo parts for dogs. And somebody was like, that's so cruel. Like, the kangaroo population is running out. And then I looked it up because I was like, I don't think that's true. And I looked it up and it was like, no, there's too many kangaroos. Oh. And they are overpopulating.
The government tells their people to eat them.
Which, as a vegetarian vegan, not vegan, I'm a vegetarian, I'm an ovo-vegetarian.
You're aspiring.
I wouldn't eat them anyways, but to say that they are endangered is incorrect.
They're definitely not endangered. Kangaroos are sort of like how iguanas are here. Like every year, the local police puts out a notice where they're like, hey, if you guys see an iguana, call the police. And I'm like, seriously? You want me to call 911 and say there's a fucking iguana? And they're like, yeah.
I think they mean they want you to call animal control because animal control is part of the police department.
Well, okay. They don't give you a number. They're just like, call the cops.
Ah.
So, yeah, kangaroos are problematique in the same way. Now, they're native to Australia. Iguanas are not native to my area. So I often wonder, I'm like, what are the cops going to do? Are they going to come out and like shoot it? They move fast when they want to.
They might also just capture it and euthanize it. That's very possible. Or they might just go to the person who's animal control and say, hey, take care of this.
And about the kangaroos tasting good, I remember now I've had kangaroo jerky. It was pretty good.
It's kind of gamey though, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
I'm being a bad vegetarian.
No. You are upholding your own values in your own life. And you're exploring and letting other people have space.
So I don't know after the comics that I currently own if there is stuff beyond. So I can't say for like sure about everything. But in the ones I have, Jet Girl isn't in them. So that's one thing. The other thing is that Booga is the only character that's, well, no, he's not. But they're not all the Rippers. She fights sometimes, and then she's sleeping with Booga. So they are not an organization, from what I can tell. At least, again, in the ones that I own.
The Rippers is where I kind of started to really drop off with this movie.
Really?
Yeah. Just because, number one, they were so hideous visually.
So mean.
I'm sorry. I hated looking at them. Number two, I found their culture to be sort of...
Patchwork appropriation?
Yes! Thank you! Thank you. You came through. Yeah, I was like, okay, so these animal folks are coded a certain way. And then also the one that she was like, yeah, I'm going to sleep with that one.
Booga, yeah.
Booga? Is that his name?
Yeah.
How fitting. He was extremely dumb, but he also happened to be one of the only ones that was extremely good-hearted.
I mean, I would say DT probably was as well.
Is that the leader?
Yeah, the saxophone.
Poet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him, but at this... I have so much to say, and I
will say something in that the nerdy guy was the worst. He was a complete perv, and I hated it.
Yeah, I hated him.
Like when he tried to put the microphone thing on Jet and then just basically groped her.
Yeah.
And then humped her when they were dancing.
And he's like, it's okay, I've got a condom. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah. So it was gross, and I hated that. But Booga is very sweet, and it's hard not to kind of love him. But he's also technically a part dog. So I'm like... how appropriate is this relationship?
Tell me about that.
That is not a thing in the comic. as far as I'm aware.
Basil, I need you
Yeah.
to tell me about the part dog thing, because I did not pick up on that at all. And you talked about it in our D&D session. You didn't talk about it, but you mentioned it in our D&D session yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I was like, what the fuck?
He's explaining to her about where they came from, right? And there was a doctor they call the Prophet, or was his name Dr. Prophet? I forget. Anyways.
His name was like Christopher Prophet or something.
Oh, okay. So he made them.
They sent his dead body back.
Yeah. He, I believe, was originally maybe with Water and Power or the government before it kind of maybe collapsed. But they were originally, Booga's explaining to Tank Girl, Rebecca, that they were originally supposed to be super soldiers. So they were bred to be a kangaroo human hybrid. But Booga was just such a smart dog that they bumped him up to be the equivalent of a human.
Oh, I completely missed this.
A weird choice. Because they joke about how they're like reincarnations of people. So like they take on personality traits, I think, of whatever human genetics were kind of spliced with them. Like Ice-T's character says, I was a cop, which is actually very funny.
Yeah.
What?
Figures.
I missed all of this. Holy shit. Were we watching the same version of the movie?
I mean, I watched it on Prime. I don't know what you watched it on.
Tubi.
So it is possible that something was cut.
Well, there's your problem.
.co.
Yeah, there was a scene. It was kind of a longer scene where they're all sort of talking about where they came from. Essentially where their human part of their DNA came from. Ice-T's character said he was a cop. The disgusting horny one was like a IT guy from like Iowa. Or so, I forget exactly where he says, Middle America. DT, I think, was DNA of a specific jazz musician, but I could be mistaken about that. And then Booga says, I was a dog.
Oh my God, this all makes so much sense because Booga, I was like, why does Booga kind of sound like he's drunk a little bit? But the things that he is saying make sense.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, he has trouble getting it out. Hang on. Another scene where I need clarification, y'all, is they're sitting down at the dinner table with Tank Girl and Jet Girl, and it's a happy moment. And DT, is that the leader's name?
Well, yes.
He gets up and he's like, I have a poem that I wrote. And he basically starts saying all kinds of words that would awaken a Russian sleeper agent.
It's a bad poem. Yeah.
Yeah.
They keep panning the camera to, what the fuck is the dog's name?
Booga.
Booga?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Booga. Yeah.
Thank you. They keep panning the camera to Booga. And Booga looks like he is kind of
crying.
Yeah, he looks like he's... What the fuck was up with that? Why was he feeling some type of way during the jazz recital?
So I think it is like most of the jokes surrounding Booga about how he's kind of a dum-dum. So he is moved by poetry that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I'm pretty sure, too.
Really? That's, I was like, what is it about the saxophone that's making Booga, like, kind of, I don't know, trip a little bit? But if that's it?
I think that the Rippers tend to be a little more of the comic relief, right, in general. So, like, there are kind of ongoing jokes. And I believe the one with DT is that he's a little pretentious. So it's sort of a combo joke. It's saying DT is pretentious and Booga is a dum-dum in that particular scene. And then there keeps being jokes about how Ice-T's character is mad all the time.
It was completely lost to me. Also, Ice-T's character looked so horrible.
I'll say the one thing I particularly liked, and I feel like you have to at least admit that it was like a good idea to have the kind of mottled skin because that's something more found in animals, right? So it gave them a more animal-like appearance. Not that vitiligo doesn't exist, of course it exists, but it is not very common comparatively. You don't agree?
He was hideous to me. They were all hideous to me. The best one visually to me was the saxophone leader. Like, he looked good. I did find it kind of goofy when he died that he had to do his acting through his eyes. Like, he had to sort of like cross his eyes as he died. They were so intimidating when they were in these suits of armor with their...
Yeah.
I say suits of armor, but they were like battle suits that mystified them. They were so cool, and you were so afraid of them, and you were like, oh shit, they're out here fucking people up. And they're causing a huge problem for the big bad evil guy. But then when you take those suits off, you were like, well, I was like, okay. We've got the 90s character lineup. We've got like the horny inventor. We've got the super angry, suspicious black guy, for lack of a better...
Johnny, Raphael.
Yeah. We've got the eccentric leader.
Leo.
We've got the dummy with a heart of gold.
Mikey.
It was a very 90s lineup.
So I think actually if they had spent more time with the Rippers, they would be better fleshed out for us as characters, A. And B, it would have gotten to the action a little quicker. It feels like this movie is 2 movies in a way.
Sometimes we review movies, and I think to myself, could I have done better?
Well, it's not about one person in a film, right? It's all of the people coming together to make something they believe in or make this vision happen, right? So if sometimes one part fails, but the other parts hold it up. Maybe in this case, a few parts didn't work out, but some of that had to do with production as well. You know.
Poor writers.
Poor anybody at the whims of out-of-touch producers.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I see. It's been so long, I kind of forgot that he was a rapper.
Yeah, I mean, he's mostly been doing acting for a while. Actually, a quote I saw from him, which someone asked, like, oh, it must have been really hard and all that, like, prosthetic makeup and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, better than jail.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, because the thing I just was like, I don't know. When watching this again, I was like, the beginning parts of this movie are just seeing Rebecca particularly being subjected to just general misery and like under constant threat of sexual violence. And I'm just like, does this need to go on this long for real?
The bonkers thing, and I don't know if I almost kind of feel like I like this. That might say something psychologically about me that I don't want to unpack right now. But she's like taking it in stride. She's like, give it to me, baby. It's almost like when you are in a fight with a narcissist. Because a lot of these male characters are very, I don't want to alienate.
Hold on. This is in media, right? Not real life. We're talking about the way media portrays.
No, I'm talking about this movie specifically.
Oh, okay.
A lot of these male characters are very chauvinistic, isn't the word either. They're very toxic. There we go.
Yeah.
And she's almost like using the tools against them. She's almost mirroring their violence against her.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'm going to do some gross stuff to you. And she's like, oh, I might like that. That is a mirror reaction. Like, I'm going to reflect that shit right back to you.
Fire with fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I don't think it's a problem in general to show she's being tortured. Some bad stuff happens, right? Like, this is how we get to the story. But it goes on for quite a while.
The entire movie.
Well, sort of, but particularly all that happens for like I don't know, at least 20 minutes, I feel like, of the movie.
The whole scene where there's some sort of water and power guy, and he's like, you know, if I feel teeth, I'm going to blow your head off. We could have done without that. The movie would have gone on.
Well, and I guess that's what I mean.
Yeah, there are so many scenes. Just cut it. Just cut it. Get it out of here. It's fine.
Like, shorten some of it. You know what I mean? Because it does feel like kind of a bummer. Whereas the movie as a whole, I think is fun, right? But I felt like when I was watching the beginning, I'm like, this is a fucking bummer a little bit. There's so much, I don't know, like misery going on for an extended period of time.
A lot of misery. And she keeps a Stepford smile about it. Yeah. And in a way, to me, it's reassuring, but it's also exhausting because she's wearing this Stepford smile the entire fucking movie.
Like you said, cutting a couple of scenes or shortening a couple of the scenes, I think would have behooved the film a little bit because you're just in it so long. It's such a bummer. And it's boring.
They were trying to prove a point so hard. We already get it.
Yeah.
She's got the quips. She's got the comebacks. She's got the whole I'm not afraid armor on. We get it. You don't have to beat a dead fucking horse.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like the earlier parts of the film are like, which, because the tone ends up changing too drastically, I feel like, once you've been sitting in that misery for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of the rest of the film, I would say, after all these like torturous, whatever, it becomes kind of fun to watch. Like, I'm not saying it's necessarily good per se, but it is a fun experience. I mean, I know you said you kind of dropped off at the end, but for me, I'm like, oh, this is fun and it is silly and it is fun to root for somebody knowing that we're moving in the way of like her probably succeeding. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's fun. It's fine. We can deal without the extra agony that isn't plot relevant.
Yes. Because it doesn't seem like it's driving the narrative forward.
Correct.
It's just reiterating the same point over and over again. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think we're kind of saying the same thing at this point.
The whole torture and everything seemed kind of a bit excessive, like you said. One thing I was thinking is, when she was in the tube, I understand it's torture and everything, but she seemed kind of, claustrophobic, but her whole thing was wanting to get into the tank, which is a very small space.
Yeah.
So are you claustrophobic or not?
There is a possibility that some of it was like light sensory deprivation might have been part of it. But yeah, no, if it is claustrophobia, it's like, well, she doesn't actually seem to have that.
Well, but wait. Now my mind is over here blown, because part of trauma recovery is like making choices. And she does. She cleaves unto that tank. She's like, I'm not going there without my tank. I have claimed this shit as my own. It's almost like the tank is another character to her. And that's interesting, Drew, because the tube was not her choice. She was taken to the bad place when she got put in the tube. I also was taken to the bad place when she got put in the tube.
Same. I am claustrophobic.
But the tank was her choice. It was like, it's like her bubble.
I also wonder if there's a portion of it that is like her thinking it was so badass sort of trumped some of her fear too, because she thinks it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it. She was empowered. Oh, she pointed that tank gun at so many people. That gave her power.
Yeah.
I feel like Amanda with this, I think I missed, when did the tank become Herbie?
So that does actually partially relate to what I was going to talk about. So they go to visit a woman, and that's where she finds out where Sam is. And they use her stuff to like kit out her tank. Also, technically, Jet is kitted out or whatever.
When did the tank become Herbie? I'm sorry, I'm writing that down.
No, I got you. And in that scene, that woman is supposed to be another character called Subgirl. So they wanted more scenes with her, but again, I think production kind of maybe made it shortened.
I thought she was going to be a part of some shit.
Yeah, because she is kind of normally. But yeah, the lady with the red hair with the little junk shop thing that she had, if you notice, it was all fish and water themed. Like much of the stuff in her shop. I think it's a shop. Maybe it's not a shop. But yeah, she's very anti-water and power. So it does feel like, oh, this is another character that's going to join them. But then she doesn't. So I don't know.
Seriously thought that she was going to join them. And I was like, holy shit, 3 ladies? 3?
And I feel like Basil, their costuming and stuff was all kind of coded very similar in contrast to everyone else.
Yeah, yeah. And that is true, because they have that. I
thought for sure, too, they were going to be a trio.
Yeah, it looks like it because they look like they belong together. I will say that Booga also kind of does, because like they all have sort of like I want to say punk sensibility, but that's not quite it. You know what I mean? Like it's a little different than that. But yeah, they all have a similar sensibility of kind of like weird shit and whatever you want, whatever you like. And it's all like a little counterculture, I guess.
So did we answer the question, when did the tank become Herbie?
Yeah, right after that scene.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, at the shop. Because that's what she's like, oh yeah, I'll help you guys. And that's what she's saying I'll help you with. Because they are clearly water and power tanks and kitted out.
Very, very important, because with a movie called Tank Girl, I expected the tank to come supplied, okay? Like, I was actually a little bit let down that the tank was acquired.
It's the origin story.
Yeah.
Sure, but
Well, if it happened faster, would that have been better? That's what I'm saying about the beginning part where it goes on too long.
no. I would have preferred her to have the tank already. It should be a part of her identity if you're going to name the thing Tank Girl. If you're going to name it like Rebecca, I don't know, the warrior or whatever, and then she acquires a tank.
Doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
Hey, shut up. I didn't get paid for this.
Okay, but like Superman does not start out as Superman in most of his movies.
Spider-Man doesn't start with spider powers.
Yeah. So it is sort of like the origin of it. How did she become Tank Girl? How did Jet become Jet Girl?
For the big red dog starts out super tiny.
Yeah.
See, I got those. I got that shit.
But it is the story of her becoming that. Because the insinuation is that she continues being Tank Girl at the end.
I did really like that she was like, not without my tank.
Yeah.
Once I realized that the tank did not come equipped, that it was a feature that we were going to have to pay extra for.
Girl. This is not a DLC. This is not EA, okay?
$19.99 for the tank DLC.
Fuck you guys. I can't stand you guys. I did appreciate the kind of rare scenes where she was like, my tanky, I need you. Like, I really feel like that could have been played on a little bit more, but whatever.
That's fair. I think that part is kind of fair. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If you're not going to start out with it, if you're not going to make it an opening presence, then you need to really fucking lean on it.
I gotta disappoint you that the tank doesn't feature quite as much in the comics as you might like.
I'm done. Let's just call her Girl.
God damn it. It's supposed to be like a nickname, that's all, you know?
Girl.
Girly. That is a reference to Dimension 20. Does anyone else have anything they want to touch on, or?
One other thing, small. All the torture and everything that occurred there. One thing I found funny was the fact this movie that is basically devoid, besides small points of water, still had a shower scene.
It's a sand bath.
At the very end?
No. During her time in the mine, they have a sand bath kind of thing, but it's like a shower.
Just the way they did the music was like...
Your typical, like, sexy shower scene, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fucking jealous of a sand bath. I fucking hate showers. If I could shower and be dry the whole time, that would be incredible. I want to be a chinchilla so bad.
That shit holds oil. No, you gotta have water. You got to.
No. I want to be a chinchilla, and I think it'll basically be like when I spray Batista in my hair.
Girl. You're gonna get clogged pores.
Fine.
Okay. I think we're done with Tank Girl. So, is it Yestalgia or nostalgia? I'll give it a soft Yestalgia. I feel like the child or something. I like the bright colors and all.
Real nutty with this one. Don't worry.
I like the punk fashions. I like all the jokes. I like the rippers, despite how ugly they are, Amanda. Yeah, it's a good movie, but it's not something I would watch more than once by choice. So, yeah, soft Yestalgia.
Soft Yestalgia. The softest of Yestalgias. Well, no, that's not fair. It had parts that I really, really liked. It had a lot of parts that I absolutely could not follow, though, because it was just bonkers all over the place. I actually could have handled the Rippers being so visually unattractive as I found them if the story would have been more cohesive. But at the same time, I didn't hate it. I would not rewatch it. And also, let me just travel back in time. I do think that past me, the me that really, really wanted to see this when it came out, I don't even think that she would have liked it. I think that I would have pretended to like it because it is really like 90s cool, but I would not have given it a second watch, even as a kid. Soft Yestalgia only because I didn't hate it.
Okay. Mine's just a Yestalgia. I am quite sure there's a portion of that is my nostalgia and my fondness of it, or my fondness for the feelings that it gave me when I was a teen. And I think it is kind of a messy movie. Like, it is not super cohesive. It is not always sensical. But most of the time, the experience is fun. So I do think it's a little bit of a turn your brain off movie sometimes and just have fun watching it. And yeah, I'd like that. So yes, for me. All right. Does anyone have any nostalgia they want to talk about?
I'll go first. So I've been watching Solo Leveling. It is a show about these dungeons pop up. So people have gained powers and are called hunters. They go into the dungeons to defeat the enemies and clear the dungeon so they can't escape to the world. So in that way, it's basically like an RPG.
This sounds like some Adventure Time shit.
And our protagonist in the show is known as the world's weakest hunter. But something changes about that. I won't get into that right here. Spoilers. Okay, so my second thing, my non-anime, is I've been watching Resident Alien. It's about...
Is that the one with blonde guy from Firefly?
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk.
He's an alien who crashes on Earth and kills the first person he sees and replaces him. And he's basically trying to keep his secret from getting out while trying to figure out how to leave the planet. Oh, and he was there in the first place to kill everyone.
But he's maybe changing his mind.
Yes. Or the series, he is changing his mind.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me, there was this show People of Earth on TBS, and it didn't last very long. It was only like 2 seasons, and I still have not seen the second season. Yeah. If you like Resident Alien, I'm wondering if you might like that. Anything else you want to recommend, Drew?
That's pretty much all I've been watching.
Cool. I have not been watching much. I've been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine because now it's on Netflix, so I don't have to watch commercials.
Guess who just got murdered?
What?
I'm sorry. It's in like one of the first episodes, like the first few episodes where he's like, guess who just got murdered? And it's someone horrible.
So yeah, I like it. I mean, they're cops, so like boo, but it's still a good show, unfortunately. And they do address some problems, particularly in the last season with policing. Anyways. But reading, I recently finished The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, which is a book. It's kind of a romance, but it's about lady pirates, but their ships are actually their houses and they fly, which I know sounds insane, but it is very tongue-in-cheek and, I don't know, cute, and the writing is very cheeky, you know.
You had me at Lady Pirates.
Yeah, it was a fun read. And it's short. It's less than 300 pages, so it's not very long. So I did like that. And there are 2 more in the series. Yeah, and I'm just starting the 3rd Regency fairy tale, which I think I brought up in a previous episode by Olivia Atwater. And this one is sapphic, so I'm excited to read this one.
Fuck yeah.
So, yeah, those are my books right now. Amanda, would you like to recommend anything? It's okay.
Have fun, you guys. It was nice talking to you. Love you both. Smooches.
Girl, you could just say you don't have anything.
No, I did. I watched the... This is totally impotent. I watched the first episode of Bridgerton.
Oh my God, girl.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing.
So I could not remember Basil.
Yes.
I watched it while my dad was over on Saturday, like last Saturday. And he's like, hey, have you ever seen Bridgerton? And I'm like, that word is all up in the neurons somewhere. And I don't know where it came from.
Me? Was it me?
Well, it could have been Daddy. I don't know. It was probably both of you.
Yeah.
But he's like, hell yeah, let's watch Bridgerton. I watched the first episode and I was like, oh no, he's hot.
There's your catchphrase.
Renee, what's his name? I forget his name.
Yeah.
Who was also in the D&D movie.
Who? What? Who?
Oh yeah, he played the paladin. Yeah, the Duke in Bridgerton plays the paladin in the newest D&D movie.
This boy who looks like a young Lenny Kravitz.
Yes.
He entered the scene and I was like, okay, I'm checked in.
Regé Jean Page.
That's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. His name is even hot.
Oh, and the 3rd season is going to come out in May. So, girl, please watch it. I want a dish.
Yeah, okay.
So, that has been the Yestalgia podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Catch you next time.
Bye.
not so clever.